Let's talk a little bit about how to develop AI conscious assessments. Now, the first thing to note here is we are not trying to create AI proof assessments. That's something which may or may not be desirable, depending on what we're trying to achieve. But in any case, it's something which is just not really enforceable, not really realistic. That's not the goal that we should be aiming towards. Instead, the goal is to create AI conscious assessments where the assessments are designed with the existence of AI tools in mind. The assessment may not itself actually require students or permit students to use these tools, but it's at least aware of their existence, aware of what it might allow students to do. And that's something that we keep in mind throughout the whole assessment development process. Now, within the AI-ready process, this is what assessment development generally looks like. Okay, we start by defining our learning outcomes, thinking what we want our assessment to actually measure, what we actually want to achieve with it. Next, we figure out the correct AI integration level based on what we're trying to achieve. And only after that do we begin actually designing the assessment itself, thinking about what kind of assessment makes the most sense, coming up with our rubrics, developing the materials, and then actually administering it to our students. So let's take a look at what this might look like. Okay, so just as an example, I'm going to use a course that I've taught. It's an advanced writing course in communications. And the learning objectives for this class look something like this. So apply critical thinking strategies, create written and oral works for academic and vocational audiences, critically analyze source material, use academic, professional, and inclusive language structures. Okay, this is overall what the course is seeking to do. And for the particular assessment that I'm wanting to deliver, I would also add and specify these particular learning objectives for the actual assignment that I'm wanting to give students. I'm wanting students to apply critical thinking to real-world problems, conduct research using credible sources, to propose feasible solutions based on independent analysis, communicate findings in a structured, well-supported written report, and critically engage with AI tools while maintaining academic integrity. Okay, so this is what I'm trying to do with this particular assessment. Now that I've figured that out, the next thing that I need to do is decide what's the AI integration level that makes sense. Based on what I'm trying to achieve, which of these levels of permissiveness with respect to AI tools makes the most sense for what I'm trying to do. Based on these learning objectives, does it make sense for me to strictly forbid the use of any AI tools? Do I essentially let students do whatever they want with AI tools? Or somewhere in between these two extremes? One little tool that I've created to help with this is right here. I just called it AI Ready Lite. And I included a little level selector within it. It just asks a few simple questions to try to guide you towards thinking about what might make the most sense as far as an AI integration level goes. So first, is this assignment aiming to assess students' ability to work entirely on their own without technological assistance? Not really. Is it important for students to improve their writing or presentation skills with AI only refining their work rather than creating it? Well, for this particular assessment, I think that is a little bit important. Should AI be limited to basic fixes like grammar and spelling rather than shaping the structure or the style of the work? You know, it's not really in the learning outcomes for this particular assessment for me to assess students' spelling and grammar and that kind of mechanical stuff. That's actually not really what I'm caring about primarily for this assessment, so I'm going to say no. Okay, so it's recommending level 3, so something in between where students can use AI tools, but only to revise or enhance or expand upon their content rather than to create it on its own. Okay. Once we've done that, then we can start to develop the assessment materials themselves. I've included within the AI Ready Lite app a little template generator to help you get started here. Okay, so this assignment, I'm going to call it Getting a Head Start in Your Field. It's in communications. And here are the learning outcomes. I'm just going to separate these with commas. Okay. And I'm going to keep it at the AI integration level 3. If I decide after, reflecting on it, that I don't actually like the level that the app proposes, I can always change it in here. But let's keep it at level 3 for now. Okay. So this is just going to create a basic sort of template that we can start to work with. So here's what it proposes. It proposes dividing this assignment into a few different phases. And this is often a good idea when we're doing more complex assignments for our students, to break it up into different phases and maybe keeping some of the earlier phases a little bit more restrictive. So that way we can ensure that the final submission, if we have one of the more permissive levels of AI integration level, we can have some assurance that students are actually playing within the rules. Okay, so a level 3 assignment would be one where students primarily are creating their own work, but they're using AI to enhance it. And I can maybe not guarantee, but incentivize students to do that by having the first few phases be at more restrictive AI integration levels, so they have to create something of their own, so that by the final phase, they already have something to work with that they can use the AI to enhance. Now, this is just a very basic kind of skeleton structure for your assessment, but it's something that you can work with and then refine into something a little bit better. So I might develop it into something that looks a little more like this. Okay, and I always like to include the little icons for the AI integration levels as well. Make it really clear to students what is and is not permitted on a given task. Okay, so I have the assessment. The next thing to do is to think, well, how am I going to actually assess it? Given that I'm at level 3, given that I know that students are going to be using AI tools to help with their work, there's some things that it just doesn't make sense for me to assess. It doesn't make sense, for example, to assess things like grammar, spelling, even paragraph structure. Things that in the past, as a communications professor, I would often evaluate. I mean, I know that those things are just going to be perfect because the students are permitted to use AI. So that's not what I'm going to be looking at all. Now, you can use this tool to help give you some ideas. Let's just say research, writing, analysis. Let's just leave it at that for now. Again, based on the level that you've selected and the type of assignment that you've chosen, it's going to just give you a few possibilities of things that you might want to be looking at given your selected AI integration level. Now, it does still have a section here on language and mechanics, And basically it's saying like how well you use the AI to edit it. I'll probably just remove this. It's probably not something that really makes sense for the way I approach these. But it includes things like, well, how does the student use the AI for enhancement? What level of originality might they have? How well do they apply field-specific concepts? Right? These are things where you can still assess the student's work even if they are having the AI assist them. And that's really what we should be aiming for here. Lastly, one thing that is really useful to include whenever you have an assessment that permits students to use AI tools, I always like to require students to submit an AI usage tracker. Okay, so here, just again, makes a little template for you. Okay, so the idea is that I require students to say what AI tools do they use, when do they use them, what's the task they use it for, how do they modify or verify the AI's output, any other notes, and to submit this along with their work. You can adjust it based on whatever you care about, but here's just a good start. And requiring students to track their AI use in this way is really, really valuable. It makes it so that the method of using AI where you just sort of copy and paste the assignment directions and then copy and paste whatever the AI spits out, that's not something that students are really going to want to include in here. They used it to write the whole thing. Not good. Not good. This really encourages students to be much more intentional when they're using AI tools. And it's a very interesting thing. Whenever I require students to keep track of their AI use in this way, because it's a little bit annoying for students to do so, they tend to actually use AI a lot less. They tend to be far more choosy when they're using it because it's a bit of a pain to have to record every single time they use the AI to do something for them. So many students just make the decision, well, I'll just do without the AI. I'll just see how well I can do on my own. This in general is my recommendation for how to develop AI conscious assessments. Right from the beginning, think about what AI integration level makes sense. Design your assessment with that integration level in mind. Design your rubric, your assessment criteria, with that in mind. And then require students to submit something like an AI usage tracker, maybe even a reflection statement, something like that, so that they have to be really intentional and careful with their AI usage. The combination of all of these things really cut down on inappropriate uses of AI tools and really encourage students to use them in just productive, useful, interesting ways. I hope that's something that you find helpful, and try to look for ways to go through the same sort of process for your own courses and for your own assessments.